What is up, my kings and queens and all in between? It is Andrew Velázquez with another episode of Mindful Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for returning, you guys, coming back to your one-stop shop place for all things mindfulness, creativity, while balancing your entrepreneurship. And today, I have an amazing special guest that I'm really excited to introduce to you guys. If you're watching, you can probably see her beautiful face already, but I want to give them a little bit of a bio. So before I do that, I wanted to ask you a favor. That song you just heard called Mi Corazón, you could download wherever you stream your favorite music. It's called Mi Corazón, written by myself, Andrew Velázquez, produced by Aaron McClendon. And for this podcast, in order for it to grow and have a little bit more exposure, I would love for you to share it with somebody that you love, that you know it'll resonate with, and maybe give us some reviews, some stars, some reviews. I might be doing a little contest soon in regards to that anniversary, the launch of my song Mi Corazón and the palette. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give this beautiful person a proper introduction. So here we go. All right, you guys. So today we have the beautiful Charlotte Piper. Welcome, welcome, Charlotte. Thank you so much for being here. So here's her bio. It all started when she worked for a local publication as a freelance writer, marketing consultant, and brand ambassador. This led her to discover the world of content creation and social media marketing. Since 2011, Charlotte became an avid student of digital marketing and has conceived of and managed several full-on brand and build-outs. Since 2020, she fully immersed herself into content creation and marketing full-time and successfully executed strategic digital marketing initiatives from conception to completion. Often referred to as the Oracle or the wizard behind the curtain by those who know her best, Charlotte's willingness to see through the veil and think outside the box are both huge aspects of her success. Through her work, she's been involved in everything from high-level multinational projects as well as smaller grassroots endeavors. She's worked with brands like Nyx Cosmetics, as well as national touring acts, and traveled the country to attend promotional events as part of her work. During her time working in digital marketing and content creation, Charlotte came to recognize the disparity and representation amongst marginalized communities, specifically the 2SLGBTQI plus and BIPOC communities. With this knowledge, she chose to predominantly work with creators, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits in these communities, like myself. Through her tireless pursuit to create more opportunities for these communities, Charlotte is excitedly considering the future of her brand and working closely with organizations that align with the same goals. Charlotte's foray into event coordination and content creation began in the past year when she was asked to consult and curate for a local art gallery that specializes in public programming highlighted marginalized creators. This opened up a whole new avenue of creative visioning for her, one in which she could utilize many of her developed skills and contacts to produce and participate in meaningful content that uplifts, edifies the communities that she serves and humanity as a whole. Welcome, welcome, Charlotte. How are
That's
you?
kind of a mouthful, yeah.
I love it.
Thank
I
you.
know. I always got to like take deep breaths and just not rush through it because as a content creator and interview yourself, I imagine you already know like you can't rush through these questions. You got to like breathe,
Yeah,
otherwise you're going to stumble on them. But thank you so much
for
for being
sure.
here. I'm so excited to talk to you. How does it feel to hear a little bit of your bio and your accomplishments? And
Well,
congratulations, by the way.
thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me be part of this project of yours. And uh, it's interesting to hear somebody talk about me because I'm usually, as the bio mentioned, the wizard behind the curtain. I've never really sought a lot of like acknowledgement or recognition for what I'm doing. I'm more so the person that's like shining the light on other folks. And
Yeah.
so it's always humbling to reflect upon the very diverse projects that I've been involved with over the years, because it has been everything from like working with million-dollar entities, that have like enormous followings, to working locally with artists that are just kind of like breaking into the scene. And so, and all of it has value, right? And everything. And I've learned so much from everything that I've been involved in. So it's always interesting to reflect on those experiences.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of interesting to be the person. I'm usually the one doing
Yeah.
the interviewing as opposed to the person that's being interviewed. So this is kind of
Yeah.
new.
Yeah. We've switched the roles a little bit. And all right, just to give everybody a little bit of a backstory, we met through my publicist, Virginia, founder and CEO of Greege.com. And Charlotte and I collaborated as I launched for my makeup palette book, all the things that you can see in the back if you're watching the YouTube. If you're not, go to the youtube.com/Andrew Velázquez and you'll see it. And it was so fun collaborating with you. And I just immediately connected with your lights, your values, on everything that we, really have passionate about and trying to make a difference in this world and impact with POC, LGBTQ. Like we just spoke the same language, we had the same vocabulary and the same mission statement, really, to expose more diversity for everyone and just have that be a universal kind of like language. So I really appreciate your energy and just what you did for me and collaborating with the beautiful queens and of Colorado that were able to experience the palette and perform and, do
That
all
was
the
fun.
things. Yeah, that was super fun. And then I mean, how passionate you are and how giving you are. You gave away all the swag that I gave to you to everyone else and didn't leave anything for yourself. Like that's how unselfish you are. And I really
Well,
have
I have
noticed
to
that about
correct.
you.
I
Oh, you
did
have the
keep
book.
this.
Okay, good.
I did keep
Yay.
this. I reserved this for
Bravo.
myself, but everything else got given away. Yes.
Thank you. For those of you listening, she's holding up my book, which is right here. It is called Amor es Arte, Arte es Amor, also known as Love is Art, Art is Love. The anniversary, which is so crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so grateful to have connected with you and meet you and know I haven't met you in person, but I will one day because I have family that
Yes.
lives there. So as soon as I visit, I will drop by. But yeah,
Yay.
let's rewind a little bit because this is about you, your journey as an artiste, and whatever you're willing to share, because this is really the time that I feel that our listeners and viewers connect with the guests because they maybe share similarities in growing up or discovering their passions and whatever it is that you want to share about your history. So how was baby Charlotte Piper? And where did she grow up? And what is the origins? Whatever you are wanting to be open about.
Well, it's interesting, first of all, to hear you refer to me as an artist because I actually just recently came to the realization and conclusion that what I do actually is art. Um,
100%.
but when I think of art, I think of like music and film and
Hmm.
photography, even makeup as
Yeah.
art. But when
Yeah.
it comes to writing, I mean, writing is very creative, and that's where I really got that's where my core is. Like I remember, speaking of my origin story, as a young kid, being a really avid reader and knowing from a really young age that I wanted to be a writer. That's whenever anybody asked me from like, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, what do
Yeah.
you want to do when you grow up? I want to write.
It's so cool.
And it's been quite the journey since then. I did write my very first like children's story as soon as I
Oh,
was old enough to like, hold a pen. It hasn't been published, but it was essentially based around the concept of this um outcast that was in this community of,
okay.
and maybe a little reflective,
Yeah. How old were
and this
you?
outcast. I was like 8 years old when I wrote this story,
Wow. And
and
what
it
is
was
it
about
called?
this. I don't know that I really remember the title, honestly. I sent a
That's
copy
okay.
of it to my grandmother, who has since passed, and she was like,
No, I'm
this
sorry.
is a great story." And
Grandma
so,
approved.
yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, she may have just been doing what grandmas do. But I that aside, I feel like it's really important to encourage your kids, especially if they have an artistic streak. And so it did hold a lot of meaning, and I've carried that with me all these years as I've branched out into other creative endeavors. But at the core of it, it's always been like creative writing. And so It started out with this story of this person who was this outcast in this community of people that it was sort of like the a take on Dr. Seuss's, the story about the
Uh-huh.
all like everybody has like the one symbol on their stomach, or they don't have the symbol on their stomach, and then the other one has the star. I'm
Yeah.
blanking,
Yeah.
but I'm
You're good.
blanking on the
Thing one,
title.
thing two is what I think of.
Yeah, yeah. And so anyway, all that said, I grew up in a household where I was exposed to a lot of music predominantly,
Nice.
and that really like fueled a lot of the things that I tended to get involved with moving forward in the future. I consider myself to be a huge audiophile, and just in general, really, really connect with music as an art form, being a non-musician myself.
Yeah,
But
I relate.
the power of music is storytelling, really, and
Hmm.
so I guess that's why it kind of makes sense and it aligns. Now, I didn't grow up in the best, the most nurturing environment for a child.
Yeah.
And so I had to really learn from a young age how to um, be resourceful and resilient. And
Nice.
just to save a lot of backstory, but
Yeah.
essentially, both my parents were addicts. I was born into a family that was very toxic and destructive. And I really had to spend a large portion of my young adult life and my adulthood unlearning a lot of
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
behaviors and
absolutely.
thought processes that were deeply embedded into me from a very young age when I had no choice but to just absorb it, you know?
Wow. Yeah. It's an ongoing project. It's healing forever, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm now really understanding why we bonded so much and connected because you're on the same mission and through your healing process, you're helping heal others. So I think that's amazing. You should commend yourself for that. That's really
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah, I mean, I do tend to attract various forms of cycle breakers. My circle of influence is predominantly cycle breakers, and yeah, we're just really all, and that's how we align. And it doesn't
Yeah.
really necessarily matter what your age is, your race, your economic status.
Hmm.
Uh, or how you choose to identify from the perspective of your gender or sexuality. The common denominator amongst all of us is a sincere intent to break the toxic cycles that were um, taught to us
Yeah.
from previous generations.
I've talked about that from such a young age to other relatives or family members that maybe and I both had the same observations. RuPaul talks about this sometimes, where she's like, "Are you in on this too? Are you seeing that? Like, is this real?" You know what I mean? And I remember having moments like that at a young age too, where I wasn't aware of the toxicity, and probably same to your experience. Till much later, I realized, oh, that was not normal. Like that, I should not have been a parent at such a young age.
Ooh, yeah.
Or I should not have been a parent to my parent and uh,
Mm-hmm.
all that. But with those experiences, forgiveness is one of the first things that, you know, is more challenging. For me, it was really challenging, but I eventually had to because I realized you're living with just like darkness and hate, and that's not good. You know what I mean? Like carrying
Right.
that much weight on you.
Right.
I realize adds I hope maybe you can relate to this as well, and because I feel like you kind of do with your circle, that letting that go and then moving forward and connecting with other beautiful lights and putting those voids and those toxic like energies out will open up more space for beautiful lights to enter and that's the new cycle that I'm seeing of this beautiful like artist renaissance is what I'm calling it. So I love that you're doing that with your circle. And for those of us that are not aware of the breaking cycle concept, can you kind of dive a little bit into that, please?
Yeah, so I want to touch on what you said about forgiveness. Yes, that is part of the cycle breaking process for sure. And for me, a large a big portion of that forgiveness was forgiving myself
Absolutely.
for what I didn't know at the time. Because,
Absolutely.
like, in my early formative years, I really did some messed up stuff because I
Mm-hmm.
was really
Same.
in a very dark place, and I was headed in a direction that was um, not so conducive to creating the life that I have now. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just put it that way. I had a watershed moment basically when I turned 23, where I came to the realization that if I continued on this path, I was going to end up dead or in prison,
Correct.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
very easily. And just like through the people I was associating with, the types of things that I was being, you know, involved in. And I made a decision, really. I was actually homeless at the time. um, when I made the decision to, I didn't know how. I didn't know how I was going uh, to move forward with this profound understanding that I needed to do things differently, and I wanted to be somebody that was creating meaning in the world,
Yeah.
um, and an impact. And so, I spent the next 20 years really figuring out what that meant for me,
Yeah.
because it does. I think it means a little bit different. Things It means something a little bit different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I've especially come to realize that myself, considering the circle of influence that I have. And so the cycle breaking really it just started with a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of it sort of unfolded from there. I found myself at the library, like checking out every book I could find on like self-help and self-realization.
Yeah.
And a big one at the time was like Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer had like a really profound impact on me at the time. And I just found, like, especially a lot of his spoken like audiobook to book content to be really soothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped like get me back into a place of alignment when I was being um when I was sort of deviating from the path that I had chosen would be like my path in the future. And
Yeah.
so for me, the cycle breaking came in choosing to do things differently than how I was taught,
Mm-hmm.
and then really kind of like honestly fumbling through finding and aligning
Discoveries.
with the teachers that would help
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
get there. And
Yeah.
then it's good to learn, but then you have to take what you learn and put it into practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask at 23, was there a significant person that maybe inspired you or encouraged that decision to break that cycle?
It was the birth of my child, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
what is their name?
Um, I was looking at the face of my child, and realizing that I couldn't continue to make the mistakes I was making.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And yeah, so my child is Zan, and they're actually, they just celebrated 21st birthday. So
Yay!
it's,
Happy birthday,
yeah.
Zan. Okay, Aries in the house.
Not that I'm aging. Actually they are Pisces, but they're right there on the
Oh,
cusp.
yes, you're right.
So
Yeah, okay, cool.
yeah. Yeah, but not that I'm aging myself or anything, but yeah, that was 21 years ago that I looked at that precious little face when
Yeah,
we were sitting in a Volunteers of America homeless shelter,
yeah.
and thinking to myself, I've got to do things differently.
Wow. I love that. That's amazing. I mean, again, how beautiful to have created this little light that came within you and as an oracle almost too. And then full circle, here we are celebrating their 21 years of around the world,
Yeah, I'm just
That's
like slogging
amazing.
through it too, because my kid, I don't want to disclose too much of their story, just because
Hmm.
out of respect for their privacy. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
they went through a lot of mental health struggles, as I
Hmm.
think a lot of Gen Zers are tending to, be more exposed to
Yeah.
those types of things. And um, I mean, there was a period of time where we thought that Zan might not survive this.
Yeah.
So to be able to like continue to celebrate another year,
Yeah.
despite the, quite frankly, the dystopian uh reality that we're kind of living in right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. But yeah, that's extreme gratitude and extreme uh, humanity, and just the maternal part, I think, is also a beautiful spiritual part that I definitely can relate to because I have my maternal instincts, and um, I just love that you were able to have that awareness within guys, and here you are still and just celebrating every year. So I commend you for that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, of course, of course.
There's no
So
shortage of mistakes made along the way, but we can't always focus on,
I
you
love
know.
it. And so I call this segment the Love is Our Art is Love segment, and I wanted to ask, um, well, another quote that our Mama Queen says, "How are you gonna love somebody else if you can't love yourself first, right?" So, do you have any like self-care beauty regimens? Do you take time for yourself selfishly before you are of service for others? What do you do? What does Charlotte do to take care of Charlotte?
Well, as a parentified child, I learned a lot of really toxic behaviors when it came to self-care. I was always putting everybody else's needs before my own. And that's still something that I struggled to this day with. However, I am getting a lot better about making sure that I do the simple things like eat
Yes,
and do my
nutrition
best
is
to
a
try to
thing.
yeah, and not just like what just not just eating itself, but like the types of nutrients that you're like putting into your
Yeah,
body. That's
yeah,
a huge
absolutely.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wasn't really taught a lot of like healthy habits growing up. So a lot of this I had to really develop on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And healthy eating habits is something that is a continuous struggle with me. I did have an eating disorder, and but mine manifested in a different way where it was like rooted in food insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So like no matter how much money I had in the bank or how many groceries I had in the cupboard, I would had have this feeling that I had to ration. So I would only like eat once or twice a day, and not necessarily as out of a sense of like not out of a sense of intermittent fasting or anything. It was more
No,
so
maximizing.
from the perspective of, oh my god, I might not ever get to eat again, so I
Mm-hmm.
have to ration what I have, which I know isn't true. But that's again like one of those deeply embedded beliefs. And so but as far as like self-care is concerned specifically, one thing that I have really like, especially this past year, made a commitment to focus on is honoring my need to rest. I, uh,
Amen.
I I often joke about the fact that like if I could like I feel really limited by this like carbon-based meat suit that requires maintenance.
Right.
you know because if I had it my way, there's so many things to experience and there's so many like things to do in this life. I would just keep going. I would go and
Mm-hmm.
go and go and go and go there, without eating or sleeping or anything like that, just because I'm really on fire and I'm really passionate. But
Mm-hmm.
then I have this like limitation of having this body that really needs
Energy.
sustenance. Yeah, sleeping, eating. Skincare is a big thing for me.
Yeah, your skin looks great, and I love the
Thank you,
lippy.
thank you.
Yes.
um, yeah, so honestly, it's really as simple as I make sure I wash my face at night before I go to bed. Sometimes I do, I apply like a cold cream before I sleep. And
Nice.
then after the shower, when my skin is damp, I make sure that I put on I have a couple of different products that I use to assist with the, I guess, flawless complexion, if you will. But it wasn't always like that. When I was much, much younger, I had a lot of problems with acne
Mm.
and breakouts and things like that. But as I've aged, I've learned how to care for my skin in a way that it helps keep it looking the way it looks.
Yeah, and you touched
uh,
on what your intake is what your body is receiving inside internally is going to affect the way it looks on the outside too. So I'm sure your
Sure.
nutrition and how you're consistent with your health and diet has also helped the way it looks on the outside. So that's good. I
I
love
drink a
that.
lot of water.
Yes, hydration is key. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, and then let's still go into the thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable about your journey with food and the relationship that we all have because I'm sure other people are going to relate to that and
Hmm.
know that there are options and there are ways to break out of that cycle and develop good habits. So again, commend you for your journey and
Thank you.
expressing so much. I love that. But in through career, when I know that writing was something that you're very passionate about at such a young age, and then having your child, and when so a couple questions. When did the passion for LGBTQ POC start or marginalized communities? And then two, when was that like breakout gig that, really put you on the next level with your portfolio and you were like, oh, this is that job that had taught you a lot. 'Cause every job teaches us to better prepare
Yeah.
us for the next gig and the next opportunity. So I guess two
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, that's those are both great questions. So, I've really always been, as long as I can remember, super passionate about like advocating for the underdog, so to speak. And I do sort of view the LGBTQ BIPOC communities as the quote unquote underdog, even though if you really break it down brass tacks, we are the majority.
Hey, that is
You know what I'm
accurate.
saying? And so there's a lot of like dialogue around that with respect to I hate I really honestly hate the word marginalized
Yeah.
because it's just a but it also is it references the fact that the majority population is consistently being diminished
And
by
and you think of it grammatically, it's that's incorrect.
right, exactly. It really is I want to find a better word than marginalized
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
in my view,
Underrepresented.
underrepresented is definitely
Mm-hmm.
a much better word because in my view, some of the most magical people that I have met in my life have been underrepresented
Mm-hmm.
demographics.
Yeah.
And as a I I have a one of my besties is actually indigenous and Puerto Rican, and
Mm-hmm.
this like 5'2" just spitfire powerhouse. Which if you see us together, we say that we're siblings. I'm nearly 6 foot tall, so everybody
Oh, I didn't
and,
know that.
and like she's super brown, and I'm you know, and so everybody looks at us and they're like, "How are you siblings?" And it's because we aligned, and she taught me a lot about my privilege as a white person.
Mm.
And honestly, a big part of my activism in the community started with, and I don't really want to get super political, but it is a big piece of who I am, is when Roe versus Wade got overturned.
Mm-hmm.
There was like something in me that kind of snapped at that point because I was like, and you probably want to bleep this out, but I was like, well, fuck my life then, right? You know, even though I am at the point where I'm no longer able to, or interested in bearing children, I still I acknowledged and recognized at that point in time through all my like work with my bestie and um, the Roe versus Wade getting overturned. I could see what was coming, and what has
Yeah.
unfolded since then has been reprehensible,
Mm-hmm.
if you can ask me. And so that really began I'm a that began a passion for activism and
Love it.
advocating for
Mm-hmm.
those who didn't necessarily have access to the resources that I have.
Amazing.
And so that was kind of like the point at which, however, I can acknowledge periods throughout my life where I was, I've always just kind of like rooted for the underdog, so to speak. As far as career moment in the past, I'm going to just say like the past 5 years. There's two that I can cite. One was when I was working, I actually worked in the metaverse. Don't judge me.
Wow. No, no
But
judgment here.
I was working with this organization called People of Crypto, or POC. It was founded by this gay Muslim man and this very, very passionately outspoken Jamaican woman.
Hmm.
And they were working with all kinds of drag queens and Nyx Cosmetics.
Yeah.
And that process in and of itself was, first of all, being in Web3 in in the metaverse in an industry I'd never previously been exposed to,
Sure.
was highly beneficial in a lot of ways. I learned a lot of things about technology and how we are progressing and sometimes digressing as a
Right.
society thanks to technology. And then also there was in I think it was January of, was it last year? Within the last couple of years, my bestie did an event at the Denver Art Museum that
Wow.
was it was called the Artist Take Back, and it was basically my friend and a bunch of indigenous creators that came together and took over the Denver Art Museum for one night.
That's so
And
rad.
they anticipated like 250 people to attend. We sold in excess of 1,600 tickets.
Amazing. Bravo.
So yeah, and it was, and being one of the only white faces in the room, it was a
Yeah.
very humbling and educational experience, and a lot of things have really unfolded since then for me. So
Congrats. That's so cool. I love that. Oh, I remember you telling me about that first met, and I would have loved to have participate. But I think there was a lot of going on with when we moved and all that stuff. But congratulations. That's awesome. You should definitely be
thank
proud of
you.
that. Can you share any tips or advice for aspiring entrepreneurs looking to incorporate more creativity, maybe spirituality into their work? And are you spiritual anyway? And whatever that means to you.
I consider myself an omnist. Is that how you say it? Omnist. Basically,
Yeah.
I really I take bits and pieces from everything. Like for example, a good example is one of my favorite saints is Saint Francis,
Mm.
whilst simultaneously, and I'll probably get like, chastised as a heretic for saying this. I identify with the spirituality of like the Lilith archetype, like the shunned woman who uh really was given a bad rap. Let's just
Hmm.
put it that way.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
so
Back to the
uh
underdog. Hmm.
yeah, so like from everything from the teachings of Saint Francis, most specifically to like the Tao Te Ching, that had a huge impact on my life. Lao Tzu and all the teachings that I learned from the Tao Te Ching. And so part of my like restructuring of the mindsets that had been
Hmm.
deeply embedded in me was really exploring a lot of these Eastern traditions that
Yeah.
promoted mindfulness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have my own like way of meditating. It's not the same, it's
Great.
not the way that people, tell you to do it, but it's what works for me. And I try to like put that in practice. I also do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of
Nice.
journaling every day that
Hmm.
reveals a lot of things that maybe you weren't necessarily aware of before.
Right.
It can come out during journaling. A big thing for me, and I do attribute it to my success just mainly because I am a huge believer in the power of um, the universal power of reciprocity
Hmm.
and the power of intention is I do a lot of gratitude journaling.
Yeah.
The more that I express what I'm grateful for, the more I attract things that I'm grateful for,
Hmm.
And so that really like fuels a lot of the creative endeavors for me because it starts out as a process of just giving gratitude for even having the ability to walk in the circles that I'm walking.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it kind of like snowballs from there,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And that's why I kind of merge those questions together because for me, they work hand in hand, specifically for people that are creative and um, are into music, are into their own personal growth. So I relate as well. I was raised super Catholic and conservative and strict, but obviously as a gay man, I realized that was not the practice that I wanted to continue to preach. So I also experimented and started researching on Kabbalah, Hinduism, Muslim, and meditation. And they all kind of had the same philosophy as what you put out into the universe is what you're going to receive, love and kindness, respecting Mother Nature. And so I've always said, like, I'm the forever student of the University of Mother Nature, and that's basically my religion. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's no rules to how you want to practice gratitude or how you want to be, whatever spirituality means for that individual is that's what matters, period. Um, and then I love that you're maintaining your craft and your artistic endeavors as a writer by journaling, and that's part of your like mental health. Like that's part of your therapy. That's really cool.
Mm,
And I think it's really important to um, be aware of that. And when you are setting those intentions, know that it's feeding your soul. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
however that individual wants to do that on their terms, I think is great. Just some type of, practice where it is feeding your soul, your artistic endeavors, your growth, because for me, they work hand in hand. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So all right. Now, you shared some practices, you shared some tips for aspiring entrepreneurs like yourself. At this point in your career, like how do you measure success? Do you in both creative and entrepreneurial pursuits, and do they ever overlap?
That's once again a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the way I would measure success 10 years ago is vastly different than the way I measure it today.
Valid.
10 years ago, I thought success meant like a yacht in Mallorca, which
Hmm.
that's ultimately the end goal.
Sure. If it
Or,
happens, we're not going to turn it down.
or just the thought of being able to have that kind of like leisure time. It
Sure.
doesn't necessarily, it's a representation of that to me. But for me, now I measure success by um, success can be tricky to truthfully
Yeah, because what
because
does it mean for each person is going to be different.
well, and there's a distinct like message that society sort of feeds you
Correct.
about what it
Correct.
means to be successful.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, if I can reflect upon my life or my what I've been doing recently, the past month, the past week, the past 24 hours, and I can honestly say that I contributed something meaningful to somebody else's experience or even my own,
Hmm.
then to me that's that's a success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, one thing that I find a lot of people tend to get tied up in is if they don't have a good day, then that means that can sometimes come across as not being successful in that day.
Hmm. Hmm.
But so we have to be really careful about tying our self-worth to our
Hmm.
accomplishments
Right.
because quite frankly there are days that I don't leave my bed,
Hmm.
and then there's days that I'm doing all like the 10,000 things that they talk about in the Tao Te Ching, and I do derive a sense of accomplishment from like ticking something off of the to-do list that I had
Uh-huh.
to do that day.
Yeah.
But It's again, I have to stress that it's really important to not like tie your self-worth or your success too much to how much you accomplish, because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, some days you're just not going to accomplish anything. However, rest in and of itself is an important part of success that I think a lot of people sort of like gloss over.
Yeah.
And so I'm at a point in my life where if I actually can set aside the time to rest, or I make a cognizant decision to do that,
That
that's a
success.
success for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You know, for me personally,
Yeah.
because I've previously been a person that, again, attributed, that's why I stress on it, but who has attributed a lot of my success to how much I was accomplishing in life.
Hmm. Or materialistic
And
things.
right, exactly. And I mean, I've been humbled.
Yeah.
The universe finds a fun way of humbling you when you think you're, on top of your shit, you know?
Absolutely. There's signs everywhere for us. I am so grateful that you are able to relate to that. And, I'm feeling since I've lost my mother and my two most recent senior pets, my fur babies,
Yeah.
they come to me actually two came to me very vividly last night in my so I was in that like mid between dream and waking up at that time.
Mhm.
Mom's been kind of peaceful lately, but yeah, it's putting a lot of things into perspective of, like you said, just being grateful for breathing, waking up, and
Mhm.
if you did not finish that checklist today, there's always tomorrow. You can rest, and just being kind to yourself and knowing that you got to have that patience. And really, at the end of the day, it's just like living your best self is success. And every day that you can have that gratitude and give thanks for your life and breath and air and sun and food and nutrition, then you're good. And that aura that you create around you of positivity, it'll it's contagious and it will help others around you if you continue to, express that. And if you have a bad day, it's fine. You're not going to be perfect.
Mhm.
There's no rules for how to be a human here. There's only rules to just, for me, my rules are to express love, kindness, and just not holding yourself too serious for perfection, because that's going to set, for me, in my opinion, that's going to set you up for failure. If you don't have those like, um, you can have goals, but if you don't set out specific materialistic expectations, your goals will follow through as they should as you grow day by day.
Mhm.
So yes, I love that you were able to share that. Thank you.
Well, I
All right.
mean, at the end of the day, like once we're dead and gone, people aren't really necessarily going to be focused as much on what we accomplished in life. I mean, there is a certain reflection that happens.
Hmm.
Um, I think that what resonates more with people is how you made them feel, or
Period.
how,
That
like
connection,
the
it's so
impact that you
important.
had,
Hmm.
and that's worth its weight in gold. Like we could all list our accomplishments, um, but
COVID taught us that too, as a
yeah,
humanity and community, that it is so important to have that energy exchange with each other for so many different things.
sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But all right, you guys. So we're on to our next segment. That's one of my favorites. It is called
The library is open! Because reading is what?
Fundamental.
There you have it, darling.
Libraries Open for season 2. And this is a segment for our special guests to share and spotlight their favorite book that they're currently reading, or maybe a book they've read in the past. And what are your top 3 reasons, Charlotte? So this is your time to share with us.
Okay, well, you mean besides this one?
Thank you. Yes.
No, I actually not only have I read this, which and it's wonderful. It's I feel through reading this even like more connected to you, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Hmm.
But I also I spent some time working at a resort in Minnesota, and there were a lot of visa workers from specifically Mexico. I mean, there was people from all over the world, but most of
Yeah.
them were Mexican.
She's holding up
And
my book for those of you that can't see.
I actually like shared this book with a couple of them, and
Nice.
I had to like beg to get it back from one of the guys
Are you
before I
serious?
left.
Oh,
Yes. Like
wow.
he was trying to steal it. I was like, honey, I'll send you your own copy, okay? Like this is mine.
I'll give you a point
But
for that. That's so sweet.
also this is we actually have a tiny library out front of our house because as a writer and as somebody who's witnessed a decline in reading.
I'm gonna start one
um
here. That's a good idea.
I'm trying I'm really passionate about both with the gallery in Boulder that I work with. They have a reading room that is predominantly full of books from underrepresented or authors, but
Yes.
also like we're steadily stocking it with like the books that are on the banned book list.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, all that said, our tiny library, somebody dropped off a bunch of Paulo Coelho novels
Okay.
that I hadn't read, and so this is what I'm reading now, called the Zahir. And it's I'm about a quarter of the way through it so far. I do try to make a practice of reading at least every day, if not for like 10 minutes.
Same.
Um, and it's kind of it's a reflection of a writer who was very much centered, at least so far, is very much centered in their ego self and uh, is both humorous and tragic in its own way. I guess it's the
Nice.
best I could really like put
Yeah.
the contents of this book. So and I'm a big fan of like Paulo Coelho
I like the
as an
cover. It's
author.
beautiful. For
Yeah.
those of you that can't see it, it's this lovely like sunset, almost what on top of the clouds, a silhouette of the beautiful woman, and maybe a dress that's blending into the gradients of the sunset. It's
Yeah, the
gorgeous.
Zahir is an allegory for basically the one that got away.
Hmm.
And the book follows kind of the story of this author whose spouse left them for somebody that he is baffled by the fact that,
Mm.
oh, she left me for that.
Mm.
But then as the story starts to unravel, it's sort of a reflection of, oh, these are the behaviors that drove her away from me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Okay. It's about reflecting. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So we got Paulo Coelho. This is here. Love that.
yeah.
All right. Very cool. So we're going into another awesome part of our podcast. This is called Wrapping Up Mindful Artists Rapid Cues. And so they're rapid cue questions. There's three of them, Charlotte, for you. Intuitively, just don't think about it too hard. You ready?
Yeah, I'll try to be as rapid as possible.
It's
I'm the
okay, no
queen of the
pressure.
long story short.
I love that. We'll summarize it. So, wrapping up my Florida's rapid cues. Question number one, Charlotte. Who is your hero and why?
My kid, unquestionably.
San.
My kid has been like the greatest example to me of resilience and
Yeah.
determination and vulnerability,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
So I'd
beautiful.
have to say my kid.
Shout out to Zan. Love it.
Yeah.
I said that right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good. Just want to make sure. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. All right, question number two, wrapping up my Florida's rapid cues for Charlotte. What is your favorite music album of all time?
Ooh.
Mhm.
That's gonna be really a tough one for me because as an audiophile, I'm like consistently just immersed in discovering new things.
I
Lately
hear you.
I've been getting into this group out of I think they're based out of Italy. They're European. And they're called Gioli and Asia. And it's this duo of two gals, and they make basically this really melodic EDM. So that's really been on my
Cool.
radar lately. But as far as like my favorite album of all time, I have to say that like it's gonna be a Prince album. like I'm a Prince stan. The anniversary of his death
Yeah.
is coming up this month,
Yeah.
which was tragic in and of itself. And that's tough. I really like the Emancipation album. That was a really
Good choice.
powerful
Mm-hmm.
like album. It was like the first album he released, I believe, after he broke from Warner Brothers, and
Mm-hmm.
he was just reading the world on that
Period.
album.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really great album. But when I'm like having a really hard day, as far as Prince is concerned, my
Mm-hmm.
go-to is an album called The Vault, Old Friends for Sale. And
Hmm.
like the very first song on that album says, um, uh, it's basically a song about resilience. I'll just leave it at that because I'm blanking on the lyrics at the moment,
You're
but
good.
it is a great album. And as far as like a song is concerned, honestly, one of my favorite songs that I love is a song that I watched get birthed into the world. It's a song called Chocolate Chili by my bestie, Melissa Ivy. And it's
Oh.
just, she wrote this song after she came out of like a whole litany of traumatic experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like her power anthem to the world as being like this feisty little, um, bigger than life
Yeah.
individual that's, in the world, just trying to, you know, make change for the
I love
future
the options
ancestors.
and the diversity of it too. So we had for a current artist was, and I'm probably saying this wrong because I just heard you say it once, but Jolonesia,
Gioli and Asia.
Gioli
And
Enesia.
Asia. Yeah.
Got it.
They're amazing. If you want me to, I'll send you some
Please
of their
do.
work. It's amazing.
And then all-time legend himself, Prince, who we're
Yeah.
gonna be celebrating there. We're not celebrating, but we're always celebrating Prince, period.
Yes. Yes.
Emancipation as well as the vault.
Yeah.
Um, and then song you gave birth to, Chocolate Chili by Melissa Ivy.
Well, I didn't give birth to it. I watched it get birthed.
Got it, got it.
I watched the song come into being from the point of like
Amazing.
writing the first lyrics and setting
Mhm.
down the first chords of the song to it being recorded and mixed in the studio. And then I
Yeah.
was not only part of the video shoot for the song, I have a little cameo in the video, but
Yes.
also I was entrusted to edit the music
Yeah.
video for the
Oh,
song. So
wow. Very
yeah,
cool.
there's a lot of connection there. So
Yeah. It's so fun to be a part of that. I'm coming up on the anniversary of my song as well. So we're thinking of remixing it and repurposing it in a different fun way. But yeah,
nice.
again, see, you are an artist. You're an artiste of all trades. So, all right. Miss
Thank you.
Charlotte, I have one more question for wrapping up my part as Rapid Cues, and that is, what is your favorite quote?
Okay. So I'm going to it's a Da Vinci quote, and it really just speaks to the resilience of like the human spirit. It says, "Obstacles cannot crush me. Every obstacle yields to stern resolve. He or she or they who is fixed to a star does not change their mind." And so
Wow.
like whenever I'm going through some really rough shit in my life, I think about that quote and I think about like staying aligned with that star, that true north that's driving me. And that helps me like stay focused.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Da Vinci, yes, definitely hands down. Great quote. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Charlotte. Where can we follow you? Where can we support your journey? And do you have anything to announce? Anything that you would like to plug? This is your time.
Well, so my brand is evolving as it really always is. I do run a company called Level 11 Content, and that really that covers a general umbrella of the digital marketing realm that I inhabit. So
Hmm.
um, I am mainly transitioning now just based because of the amount of years I've had experience into more of a consultative role as
Sure.
opposed to the
I love
content
that.
creation piece.
Yeah, everyone needs
However,
education for it too.
Yeah. And so, well, I mean, anymore these days, there's like a million different ways that you can market yourself online. And it really is, there's not really a cookie cutter approach. So my website is level11content.com. It's the word level, the number 11, and then the word content.com. And then I'm on Instagram as the underscore Oracle 11. I do have social media for level 11 content as well, but I tend to honestly just cultivate my personal social media a little bit more, and then that kind of drives people to my like professional um, endeavors. As far as something that I will be working on, then I just took on a bigger role with this art gallery in Boulder that I mentioned in my bio. It's called East Window Gallery. I'm taking on a bigger role there as far as being an assistant to the founding director and assisting with curation of content, as well as we are in preliminary discussions right now of cultivating an e-newsletter that is predominantly focused on creating equity within the queer community. Because one thing that I have noticed in my time working closely with the queer community is there's a number of organizations, both queer and non-queer founded, that tend to exploit their queer
Yeah,
creators. And
absolutely.
so in a sense, we are going to be calling a lot of that out and discussing how we want to proactively address those issues.
Like gay baiting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and what one big example, and I hate to say it, but like, so Denver has like a huge queer community, and for that I'm super grateful. Like,
Yeah.
there's a ton of amazing people here. A couple of RuPaul Drag Race
Mm-hmm.
winners were from
Mm-hmm.
Denver, Evie Oddly and Willow Pill.
Yes, love
Both of
them.
whom I've met, and they're like super, they're beautiful, amazing individuals. But one thing that I am noticing is happening is there's like punching down happening within the community where a lot of these entertainers and creators are being nickel and dime to death.
Correct. Yeah.
And if anybody brings the heat and the fire to any project, it's going to be a queer person, you know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm. Preach.
I'm going to be stepping into a bigger role as far as like advocacy is concerned with creating equity for
That's
queer
awesome.
creators
I love that.
and expanding opportunities for not only queer but trans
I
creators
can't
as
wait.
well.
I can't wait. We will have you
So
back to talk more about that for sure. Because I also feel like we could have a whole segment on just marketing and how to brand yourself. So I think
yeah,
stay tuned for that.
yes.
We'll get that in the future as well. But thank you so much, Charlotte, for being here and sharing your shine and your starlight and your story to everyone. I'm so grateful to have met you and to know you and for to be inspired by your story. You guys,
Likewise.
this is your one-stop shop for all things mindfulness, creativity, and balancing entrepreneurship. My name is Andrew Velázquez. We have Charlotte Piper. Make sure that you go follow all the things. And that song you're about to hear, it is called Mi Corazón. You can download it wherever you stream your favorite music, written by myself, produced by Aaron McLendon. Make sure you give us those stars and those reviews. Until the next time you guys make an impact in somebody's life, much love and light to you all. Thank you, Charlotte. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Okay, bye.